Welcome to Equilibrium in Markets. This is where we combine supply and demand concepts. Let's take supply first. Supply is actually, when we talk about a market, supply from many different companies. I'm going to draw their supply curves, these different companies over here up and to the right. So these are all their different supply curves. So these individual companies, A, B, and C, each have a supply curve, and they each have increasing costs. So we're going to look at the market supply now, and what we do is we add up these individual company supply curves, which gives us the market supply. Let's say that they are producing fish. We have a price axis over here and a quantity axis down there. Let's put Q and P. And now for each price, these companies are going to produce some fish. Now at a certain price, we'll add up all their supply like this. That's all of the supplies, A, B, and C. And now let's think about how this is going to work here. Well, if we think about the price and we think of a certain price, then this supply curve is going to represent what these companies are willing to supply at that price. So at a certain price, company A, let's say that's about, I don't know, $5. Company A will produce some fish, company B will produce some fish, and company C will produce some fish. And for a total, they'll produce about 1,000 pounds of fish a week. Not all of them will produce the same amount because not all of their cost structures are necessarily the same. But probably the way they're drawn there, they'll each produce a little bit. And the fish market will end up producing 1,000 pounds. Now at $7, things are a little bit different. The price goes up. It covers the higher costs that each one of them experiences when they try to produce more fish. And that higher cost means more production by all of them. So you end up with 1,400 pounds of fish per week. Might even be the case that some companies can't produce fish that cheaply and the price has to go up to $10 before anybody enters. But the way these individual companies are drawn here, it looks like they all enter at $5 and increase production. This market supply curve represents exactly those three companies. If a new company entered, we'd have to shift the supply curve. Now here are the demand curves. Here, and so on and so on. Remember, there's lots of them. And when we add up these individual demand curves, we get the market demand for fish, and we draw that in here like this, demand. Now, what's under this demand curve? Remember that underneath this demand curve is benefit, the idea of benefit. So, like say, the first 500 pounds worth of fish, we would all very much like because we love our fish and chips, etc. And we can't take it. We got to have fish, and so we're willing to pay a high price because the benefit is so high. As we eat more and more fish, the benefit isn't so high. And when we get out here to thousands of, 3 tons of fish, we are tired of fish. We don't want to eat fish. We end up using fish as fertilizer for our plants, etc. We're not willing to spend a lot of money on it. So again, underneath this demand curve is benefit. Let's take a look at some sections where this demand and supply curve actually meet. If you think about it, right here is a very special place for economists and market equilibrium. That's where supply equals demand. You've probably heard that before. That's no big deal just to say supply equals demand. You have to think of benefit and cost to really understand it. Let's take a look here at 1,000 pounds of fish being produced. What does that mean when we look at this particular graph? It means that 1,000th pound of fish gives us a lot of benefit. We'd be willing to spend more than $10 a pound to buy this fish. How about these people who supply it? At 1,000 pounds of fish, if we're willing to spend $10 for it, that means we benefit this much from it. So we're going to show that as a benefit. I'll put a benefit right over here. We benefit that much from the 1,000th pound. How much does it cost to make 1,000 pounds of fish? Way down here. So the cost is down here. And really what's happening, the extraordinary part about supply and demand is we're going to be looking at benefit and cost and seeing what happens. If we only make 1,000 pounds of fish, we're pretty happy because the benefit to society is way up here and the cost is way down here. If we were somebody up above Earth looking down saying, should this 1,000 pounds of fish be produced? The answer is yes. Why? Because it only costs a little bit to make and we benefit quite a bit. Now, let's look over here on this side of things. Let's say we're way out here. I guess that would be something like 2,600 pounds of fish. What's happening over here? Well, in order to produce 2,600 pounds of fish, we have to bring in all these different companies, higher cost structures. We have to cover higher opportunity costs, etc., etc. And the cost of producing the 2,600 pound of fish is very high. How much do we benefit from it? That we can see underneath the demand curve is low. We've been eating fish a lot. We're now using fish for different things. Maybe we're making fish soup, or I don't know, feeding it to our cats, etc. The benefit isn't very high. And yet to get the fish out of the water is very costly. So the cost is greater than the benefit over here. Should we be making the 2,600 pound of fish? If we were up above Earth making these decisions, deciding what to do, we'd say, no, don't make 2,600 pounds of fish. The cost is high. The benefit is low. So what do? If we look at this quantity axis, how much fish should we make? You got it, my friends. It's very easy. You keep making fish so long as the benefit is greater than the cost. And that's all over here on this side of the diagram. Benefits greater than the cost. How about right here, 1,400? Yes, the benefit's under the demand curve, and that is greater than the cost of producing 1,400, which is under the supply curve. So yes, we do produce that amount. And you keep producing till right there. Let's change colors for this dramatic moment here. Right here is the moment, because right there where supply equals demand, good enough, but supply equals demand at about 1,800 pounds of fish. And here's the key. Here is where the marginal benefit equals the marginal cost. You go past that, cost is greater than benefit. You don't want to do that. If you don't produce that much, if you don't produce 1,800, you're losing out on all these chances where benefit is greater than cost. So again, let's pretend we're up above Earth looking down, and we're trying to decide how much fish should be produced. Guess what? We would say produce 1,800. Why? Because that's where benefit equals the cost. You don't need somebody up above Earth to do it, though. You let free individuals express their freedom of choice and go to the market, and they represent the demand curve. You let free individuals make companies get freedom of enterprise. They go into the market and show their willingness to supply based on their cost. You let them engage in a free market, and like an invisible hand, we are driven to the equilibrium point where marginal benefit equals marginal cost. And resources are, here's a big word, allocated efficiently. I'm going to do this one more time with a little bit more shifting and detail next time, and see you there. Hope you enjoyed it.